Alright guys, I have some UFC Undisputed 3 content for you today. Now, up until recently, I hadn't played this game for quite a long time, and when I was playing it back in the day, I wasn't doing a lot of fighter creations. So revisiting it now, it's almost like a brand new thing all over again. So a couple weeks ago, I fire it up, start messing around with the create a fighter system, and it gets the wheels turning. It gets me thinking. I wonder, heading back 10 years now in MMA gaming, just what kind of results I could get using this CAF system compared to the more modern ones like UFC 4, for example, which is the game that obviously I make most of my creations in. So this here basically is just a little experiment I ran where I chose a pool of subjects based on all different attributes. I wanted fat guys, skinny guys, tall guys, short guys, all different skin tones, all different types of hair, all different types of facial hair, so on and so forth, with the goal simply being to push this creation system to its limits. And I ended up with 15 created fighters, some current fighters, some former fighters, some non-fighters, because I enjoy being creative. And yeah, we'll look through each and every one of them here now. And I'm just going to do overviews on them all. I'm not going to put the formulas out there as of now, because I don't know how much interest there is. But if you do play this game and you want to see any of these formulas posted, just let me know. I can try to get them up on the channel. Otherwise, I'll probably just keep doing these for my own enjoyment and then just doing showcase videos like similar to this one. But yeah, let's hop into the CAFs. So we'll do a quick rundown and then we'll take a closer look at each one, starting with Fedor, Israel Adesanya, Max Holloway, Paddy Pimblett, El Kukui, Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, Deveison Figueiredo, Bruce Lee, Gegard, Wonderboy, DC, Jorge Masvidal, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Henry Cejudo, and last but not least, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. As we go through these, I'm just going to share my thoughts a little bit on the things I like, the things I don't like about the creation system, but I mean, all in all, for the age of this game, not a lot of complaints. I also just want to mention right off the bat that all of these fighters are works in progress. Like, I haven't finished any of them like I would do if I was going to post a formula. And I also no longer have my same PlayStation 3 with saved game data on it, so I don't have all the points to unlock all the logos and celebrations and shirts and nicknames and all that. So very bare bones, just keep that in mind. But yeah, anyway, here's Fedor. For anyone who's been following along with the channel, you'll know that I made him in UFC 4. And honestly, I think this one looks better. I was kind of shooting for the 30-ish year old Fedor rather than modern day. Although it's easy to, with this game, it's honestly pretty easy to age the fighters because there's a entire section in the creation devoted to like adding age marks to the face. So yeah, there's Fedor. Feel free to let me know what you think about it, along with all the rest of the fighters. I love the input, positive or negative. And if you got any tips for me, feel free to pass them along. Like I said, I'm just kind of getting back into this game now. Moving on to fighter number 2, Israel Adesanya. 2 more positives about this creative fighter system that this CAF reminds me of is the ability to adjust muscle tone as well as body fat, which is a huge positive. And also you have the ability to change the skin tone, the lightness, the darkness, and the hue, which is awesome, rather than just picking from predetermined skin tones. One drawback, which you'll probably notice on this one, is the tattoos. You're limited to 10 tattoos, so it's a little bit hard if you have someone with a lot of tattoos to try to get the correct ones. So the ones I have on here for Adesanya are kind of just placeholders. I would do them differently if I was going to post the formula. And we'll just zoom in here on the face a little bit. It's a little bit hard to see because of his skin tone, but I was pretty happy all around with this one, except the upper lip needs to be bigger, but we're maxed out. Again, no big deal, but just little nitpicky stuff that you might not notice, but I definitely do. So yeah, there is my attempt at the last style bender. One more quick little 360 and we will move on to the next fighter, which is Max Holloway. Again, same thing with the tattoos. These are just placeholders, so don't pay too much attention to them. I was mainly just focused on getting the faces and bodies correct on all of these calves. Now, this Holloway one could be really good, but there's one thing holding it back, and it's one of the two kind of negative things about the creation system that I ran into while making all of these fighters, and it's the ears. You can't change their size, unfortunately. So in this case with Holloway, he has very tall ears, like incredibly tall, large, long ears. So with this system, you can move the ears up and down. You can change the protrusion, meaning how far they stick out. You can also change cauliflower amount, which is good, but you can't change their size, which is really unfortunate because I feel good about the facial structure on this one. But if we could just get the ears to be correct, it would be even better. Next up, we've got Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Now, I'm definitely not going to say that this is a good creation, but I'll say this. This is better than what I could make in UFC 4, which at the end of the day was basically my goal for this experiment anyway. You're going to notice that he has quite flabby cheeks, which was intentional. For those that don't know, he gets quite fat out of training camp, and there's all the subsequent jokes and memes, and yeah, that's what's going on here. But honestly, this one looks a little bit better when I give him the fat cheeks. I'll show you what it looks like. We'll bring the fat level down to what he would look like after a weight cut, and I think the fat cheeks look better, which is why I left it as it was. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sure. Regardless, yeah, this is better than anything I could come up with in UFC 4. So the other thing I guess with this one is the hair. With any of these games, you're kind of just at the mercy of whatever preset hairs the game gives you. And for this Paddy Pimblett one, there was like 3 or 4 different hairstyles that were okay, but not great, including this one. Ideally, it would just have more volume on the sides and kind of cover his ears, but yeah. Next one up, Tony Ferguson. Very similar to the Pimblett calf. I had a hard time with the hairstyle for this one. We kind of basically got the right hairline, but not the right length. Which, by the way, if I recall correctly, I was watching one of the Esports Boxing Club videos a while back, one where they were going over their Create a Boxer system, and I believe that they're going to give us the ability to pick a hairstyle as well as the length of the hair, which is very promising. Back to the Tony calf here though, the only other thing I couldn't really decide on was the eyebrows, which by the way in this game are freaking amazing. There's like 40 eyebrows to choose from. In UFC 4 we have like 11 eyebrows, so we have to tattoo eyebrows all the time, which is like, come on. Anyways, that was my attempt at creating Tony Ferguson. And now we'll move on to one of his more recent opponents, Justin Gaethje. Another thing you're going to notice as I'm going through all of these is that their ratings are all like 1, because I haven't went through and done the fighter stats or the styles or anything like that. And if I do end up posting formulas, I doubt that I'll even include the stats in my formulas because I wouldn't feel comfortable giving that stuff out. Like, I'm not the stats guy. I'm not the gameplay guy. I don't pretend to be those things. Anyways, with this Gaethje one, I was kind of happy with how everything turned out, except for the head needs to be slightly slimmer, but we're at the minimums. And his ears need to be way smaller. So similar to the Holloways, but Holloways needed to be bigger. These needed to be way smaller. But at the end of the day, it's not all that noticeable. But if you did look at a picture of them and compared it, you would definitely see what I was talking about. Next up, Deveison Figueiredo. You may or may not notice, I've got him listed at bantamweight in the top right corner. That's not because he's a bantamweight, that's because bantamweight is the lowest weight class in this game. Aside from that, I would say that this CAF is one of the handful of ones out of the 15 that I was most happy with. Again, it's such a big positive that you can customize the bodies, so you can make them look really lean and really jacked. And overall, the head shape customization is really great. Like, Figueiredo has quite a wide head, and the top of it is even wider. So with the sliders they give us in this game, I could pretty much nail the exact shape of his head. And you can really notice the wideness when we look at it from this straight on view. Also, I used the tattoo and logo maker to add a little mole, which he has on the side of his nose. Some of that stuff is a little bit more challenging, like you can't change the opacity of tattoos, or to do more complicated tattoos you kind of have to make a logo with multiple tattoos, and yeah, it's a whole thing. Anyways, moving on. Bruce Lee. Not really sure how I feel about this one. I'm not really sure if it ended up looking a lot like Bruce Lee or not. One of the problems was the hair. There's a couple of hairstyles that kind of work, but aren't really his hairstyle. Again though, the body customization is perfect. Easy to make him really lean and really ripped. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't believe I've tried to make him yet in UFC 4. People have asked, but I just haven't done it because he's already in the game, and yeah, you know, other ones to prioritize and all that. So I don't have a UFC 4 one to directly compare to this one, but yeah, that's why I like sharing these, just to see what other people think. See if they think it looks like him, think it doesn't look like him, think it kind of looks like him, whatever. Anyways, here's the other hairstyle that is kind of maybe works for him. It's the same one I used for Paddy. Again, it's not perfect, right? Like, it needs to be fuller on the top, wider on the sides. It kind of works, but kind of not. I don't really know which one looks better. I kind of ended up going with this one. I guess it just kind of depends on which version of Bruce Lee you're trying to replicate. But yeah, overall, can't complain too much. And the common theme I've been seeing as I've been going through these is I'm not completely dissatisfied. And considering this game is 10 years old, I mean, pretty impressed really. Next up, Gegard Mousasi. Probably my favorite person in the sport. I tried really hard to make him in UFC 4. I was pretty bummed I couldn't get anything close to resembling a Gegard Mousasi. So what I came up with here was obviously an improvement on what I came up with in UFC 4, which is awesome, but also pretty surprising, right? Something I want to mention about the facial hair is it's a little bit limited, but they have the right idea. They have the facial hair divided into mustache, beard, and sideburns, which is absolutely like necessary for creations in today's gaming. Which again, EA Sports, what are you doing? Preset facial hair? We gotta do better. Next up, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Out of the 15 CAFs that I've included here, I would probably say that this is the worst one in my opinion, like the least recognizable. But I wanted to include it anyway just to show you all the range of outcomes I came up with, good, bad, or ugly. I don't know, I just had a really hard time getting his facial structure correct. One of the other nitpicky things is you can't move the cheekbones up and down, so that might have had something to do with it, but this one's on me. It's not the game's fault. I kind of feel like this is like what his model looked like in UFC 1, or if you tried to make him in GTA or something. Not great, not great. I tried to make him a little bit more smiley faced too, and that didn't help, so it is what it is. Moving on, Daniel Cormier. Went for a little bit younger version here as well. Again, another case where the body customization really helped. We could pretty much nail his exact body shape. The one problem I ran into here, which was the second recurring problem that I noticed, the first being the ears, was that there's a couple faces that I felt pretty good about, but the face needed to be moved up higher on the head, and this was the first case of that. So the eyes are at their maximum height, like I can't move them up any higher. So then because of that, you have to keep the nose and mouth all in proportion to the eyes, otherwise things look weird. So being nitpicky about this one, if I could just move everything up on the head a little bit, it would have been way better. As is though, can't complain too much. I feel like the result's not terrible. Next up, Game Bred, Jorge Masvidal. This is the one I would probably put at the top of the list. Like, I was the most satisfied with this one now that I'm looking back at all 15. I don't know if you guys feel the same way or not, but I feel like if I showed this to a bunch of people and didn't tell them who it was and they're familiar with MMA, they would be like, yeah, well, obviously that's Jorge Masvidal. And that's pretty much my only goal at the end of the day, is just try to make creations look as accurate as possible. You might also notice there's a shaved line in one of his eyebrows. That's just another little customization option we have with the eyebrows in this game. And you can also change the thickness, which is awesome. So there's like 40 plus different eyebrow types. You can change the colors, you can change the thicknesses. So there's just a lot of really good customization options for the eyebrows. Got the neck tattoo on there as well. Yeah, there's Masvidal. Next up, Stone Cold. This is the second CAF where I ran into the face being too low on the head problem, similar to the Cormier one, which I mentioned. And you'll see as we zoom in. You might have noticed we added some knee wraps as well, and you can also add ankle wraps in this game, which is great. But yeah, as you can see, the face is a little bit too low on the head, so it puts things a little bit out of proportion. But I'll draw your attention to the top of the head, and in this game we can change the shape of the head, which is, it's pretty much necessary if you're making bald people, right? So I'm going to bring this slider down to the bottom and we're going to get a completely round head, which is okay, but it's better if you can change it, because guys like Stone Cold or The Rock have a very egg-shaped head. So if we bring it all the way back up, you can see the point of the head is coming up, and it just makes it so much easier to make people with shaved heads, because you can get the shape of their head correct. Whereas when you have hair on top of the head, you can kind of hide it or get away with it. But in UFC 4, you can't change the top of the head shape, so you're kind of screwed. And I made a Steve Austin in UFC 4, and it kind of sucks, honestly, for that reason. But yeah, here you can see like how easy it is to quickly age someone by adding, like, there's these different options where you can add forehead wrinkles, crow's feet, and other creases on the skin that come with aging. And there's also other cool little imperfections you can add here, like chin dimples, cheek dimples, and then freckles under the eyes, bags under the eyes, some creases on the eyebrows, and yeah, just any other little options to add details to the faces are better than nothing, right? But yeah, there was my try at Stone Cold. Not great, not perfect, but again, better than UFC 4. Next up is the second to last creation we've got here, and it's Henry Cejudo. You can see we've got the ankle wraps on this one, which again, nice little added detail. I've got him at bantamweight for the same reason as Figueiredo, no flyweight division. Now unfortunately, this is the third case where the face is too low on the head, similar to Stone Cold and Daniel Cormier. So the overall shape of the face, decent. If we could just shift it up a little bit, it would be perfect. But I guess 3 out of 15 ain't bad. The only other thing is the hair. None of the styles are like perfectly representative of Cejudo's, so this is the closest I could come up with. And yeah, there he is. Moving on to the last creation, Wolverine. This is like one of my 5 go-to characters when I get a new game. I always try to see if I can create Wolverine, just because he's one of my favorite Marvel characters. And we did some experimenting on this one with making logos to add those bullet holes to his chest. And if you can't tell, I did try to model this one after Hugh Jackman's version of Wolverine. And I got kind of lucky that these specific sideburns were in the game. The hairstyle is not perfect, but it works because the big thing is the sideburns, right? And even the facial structure, I think it ended up pretty close to what I was going for, whereas I tried really hard to make this guy in UFC 4 as well, and it sucked. So yet again, another tick in the column for UFC Undisputed 3 over UFC 4 in terms of character creation. But yeah, that is the last of the creations that I have to show for you guys today. All in all, pretty successful experiment, I think. I had a lot of fun making these guys. I hope you had some fun viewing what I came up with. And like I said before, if you guys want to see any of these formulas, please let me know, because if there's not a lot of interest, I'm not going to bother posting them. And if you want to see me make other guys, shout those out as well. I mean, the possibilities to make newer fighters are endless, right? Other than that, thank you all for watching, and yeah, catch y'all later.